welcome back to my channel. Okay, I'm super excited for today's video, but I'm also kind of nervous because I've never filmed anything like this before and it's kind of a taboo subject, I would say. But really the purpose of this video is to connect with other women, connect with other moms, even men who might be going through something similar. And it's kind of why I've been very sporadic on this channel. Like sometimes I'm posting, sometimes I'm not. And I mentioned to you guys that I've been in pelvic floor physical therapy basically on and off since giving birth to my daughter 2 years ago. Basically, I wanted to make this video to talk to you guys about pelvic floor physical therapy and what it is. A lot of other countries, so I'm in the United States, but in a lot of other countries, it is like mandatory that after you give birth, you go see a pelvic floor physical therapist, which I think is so amazing because here in America, it's really not talked about enough. And I think that everybody should go. I think you should go whether you're a mom or not, whether you're a guy or not. And I'll kind of dive deeper into that, like more why I think that. But anyways, today is not going to necessarily be like my story. I don't want to give like all of the details and put that out there. So what I did is I asked you guys on Instagram if you have any questions for me, if you're curious about what pelvic floor physical therapy is, like what you want. So I have your questions here on my phone and I'm going to go through them, and I'll also kind of tie in. Obviously this whole video is going to be from my perspective. This is my experience. I am not a physical therapist. I don't have any training in physical therapy. So obviously, please, if you have any of these issues or you think that like pelvic floor physical therapy could be good for you, please go seek one out. Just take what I am saying as mama to mama and just telling you my story and kind of what you can expect when you go see a pelvic floor physical therapist, because I have been to, gosh, maybe 4 or 5 over the 2-year span, kind of between California and where I'm living now. So, you know, I would say that I have some good experience in this area, but once again, I am not a trained PT. So as for questions, the first question was, what are some reasons to see a pelvic floor physical therapist? And there is quite a bit, but I will go over a few that I've written down. So if you experience urinary leakage, incontinence, pelvic organ prolapse, like a hyperactive pelvic floor, like type, back pain or hip pain. So for me, I was experiencing a lot of hip pain after giving birth to Avery. It kind of came on around 3 weeks after giving birth to her, and I've had like 4 MRIs done, you guys. I've had a CT scan done. I've had so many x-rays and no one's really finding anything within the hip. So that's kind of what led me to going to pelvic floor physical therapy, because it's like, okay, if it's not really in the hip, then it's somewhere nearby. And there are many other reasons too. So those are just to name a few. And then someone else asked me, does everyone need to go after birth? Now, you don't need to. A lot of women have gotten by just fine not going to a pelvic floor physical therapist. But my one piece of information is yes, go. It's not gonna hurt. It's only gonna help, you guys. Like, so many people give birth and then they rush into trying to like lose all the baby weight or start working out again, and your body has changed so much because your belly has stretched and ligaments. You produce a hormone called relaxin, and it kind of loosens up your ligaments and muscles and everything so that your hips can widen to give birth to the baby. And you still have relaxin in your body for quite some time too after giving birth. And so it's kind of like putting Humpty Dumpty together again. That's honestly how it feels for me. Kind of went atrophied a bit, and I just felt like I lost all my muscles. I couldn't do a crunch anymore. I couldn't do a squat. And after you give birth, things definitely do change, and you've got to kind of get everything back where it belongs, and it's definitely easier said than done. So yes, I think seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist is great. I'm going to get into what to expect when you actually go see a pelvic floor physical therapy, because I'm sure some of you guys are like, okay, we get it, but like, what do they do when you walk into the room? What's the first thing? So once again, this is my experience, but it has been the same throughout every company I visited. You go in and they're going to talk to you whether you've given birth or not, and if you gave birth, was it a cesarean, was it vaginally, kind of talk to you a little bit about tearing and all of that stuff too, and kind of get your history. And then they will check you out structurally, you know, they'll kind of look at your hips, your back. More often than not, they will ask if they can do an internal exam on you. And trust me, when I first had to get that done, I just felt, I don't know, it made me feel really sad and scared in a way. And like, that was the last thing I wanted to do. I just gave birth, and I don't want anyone like messing in there at all. So yeah, it took me a little bit of like a mental leap to get through that. But then I started to look at it like, your pelvic floor is just like any muscle in your body, whether it be your bicep or your calf. It's a muscle, and they're just treating it, you know, the way that we would do externally, but some things need to get done internally. So most likely they will do an internal exam on you, and I promise you it's not that bad. So just make sure whoever you're with, you feel comfortable with, and I say go for it, because it can really give a lot of good data and feedback to the physical therapist to kind of understand better what's going on. So once they check you out internally, they might check, you know, if you have a hyperactive pelvic floor, and that means it's kind of like tightened but also weak at the same time, or if it's just really weak and you need to work on it that way. So as for a program at Pelvic Floor Physical Therapy, you know, you might go in there 2 to 3 times a week, and they might do a little internal work like releasing some like muscle knots or releasing some tension in there. But you know, that's only for maybe 5-10 minutes out of the whole entire appointment. They will also maybe massage like your IT bands. Ugh, my IT bands would get so sore. My glutes, like my piriformis muscle would almost, it was so weak for me that it would kind of clench down onto that sciatic nerve, and then I would experience, you know, sciatica. So really the main goal in pelvic floor PT is to build the surrounding muscles that go weak. That kind of helps stabilize your pelvis a little bit better. Feels like they don't need to overcompensate. So basically, when your glutes aren't working, when your transverse abdominals aren't working, your pelvic floor is like, oh no, I gotta hold up this body here. I can't like do this right. So it can clench down, and that can cause so many issues. So you're gonna go there, and you know, you might be doing some clamshells, some squats and things like that. So, you know, it's really just building strength. It's not, like I said, it's not like you're in this room and they're just internally working on you for an hour straight. It's not like that at all. It's a few minutes, kind of loosen up those muscles, and then you might go work out. Or you might work out and then you might go into the room. It just depends on your physical therapist and kind of the way they want to do it. And for next, baby, I'm gonna go to pelvic floor physical therapy before and after. I feel like everybody should. So I know I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but another question was, can guys go to pelvic floor PT? And yes, of course guys can go. Everybody has a pelvic floor. If you guys don't know what a pelvic floor is, or really even what I'm talking about, it is, think of your pelvis. It is the bottom layer of your pelvic floor. Like, it is the floor of your pelvis, if that makes sense. It's kind of like a hammock type of thing, and it holds in your organs, it holds in your bladder, and all that good stuff. This is not going to be like a full-on educational video of your pelvic floor. It's just more of what to expect when you go to therapy. So for a lot of men, or even women who are dealing with like back pain or hip pain, it's like no matter what you do, you know, no matter how much you're working out, you just feel like the pain's kind of always coming back and nobody can figure it out. It's not showing up in MRIs. It's not showing up in those x-rays. Please go see a pelvic floor physical therapist, you guys, because a weak or a tight pelvic floor, and when I say tight, I mean overactive, can just wreak havoc on the back. And when you have someone release that for you, you feel like your whole body just took this big deep breath, and it is such a game changer. And then another misconception that I feel like about the pelvic floor or pelvic floor physical therapy is like, oh, you're just gonna go and learn how to do Kegel. If it's Kegel or Kegel, everyone says it different. I call it a Kegel. But a lot of people think you're gonna go in there and do that, and you're like, yeah, I get it, I know how to do a Kegel. It is so much more than that. And actually what you learn in pelvic floor physical therapy is how to do a proper Kegel to make sure that you are actually doing one, and then relaxing in between. So many people do a Kegel, a Kegel, a Kegel, and they're never letting their pelvic floor relax, and that's just creating so much tension. So imagine always having your bicep like this. You would never be able to, it would be so painful to do anything, you guys, if your bicep was always flexed, right? If you're always doing a Kegel and you're always making it tight in there and you're never relaxing like you would your bicep, think of how painful your arm would be. It's the same thing downstairs. So, you know, they're really gonna make sure that you guys are properly doing Kegels, properly relaxing. It's called like a reverse Kegel actually, and it's how to relax in between. Something else in pelvic floor physical therapy that is huge is breathing through your diaphragm. So kind of like belly breathing and putting your, you take a big inhale and making your belly come out and your ribs go to the side, and then also kind of breathing through your back, which is easier said than done. It is so hard because so many of us become shallow breathers as we get older. We take a deep breath in and kind of our shoulders move and our chest. That's not a good sign. That's a sign you're a shallow breather, and that can wreak havoc once again on the pelvic floor over time. So just making sure that there's proper breathing mechanics. Posture is another really big thing that they'll go over with you guys. Ironically enough, your pelvic floor could be having issues because the arches in your feet might be flat or might be too overarched. Like, your feet are they're the foundation for the rest of your body. So they'll look at your feet, they will look at everything. I cannot recommend going to a pelvic floor physical therapist enough. And there's even certain foods to eat, like certain things that might irritate your situation. And remember, pelvic floor physical therapy can be for all sorts of things. So everyone might have a little bit of a different program, but regardless of who you are, it could benefit. And I just hope that I was able to kind of give you guys a little bit more of an insight on what to expect. And I hope this video makes you more comfortable if you have an appointment coming up, or if you've been thinking about going. I say yes, go for it. As you can tell, I'm like really passionate about this subject because it's really changed my life. I mean, I really thought that like my body was broken. When you go to so many doctors and everyone can't explain your pain, maybe look where the pain's not actually at, right? You got to look in a different area. So I hope this helped someone out, and if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. You can reach out on Instagram at the Mohajer family. If you guys have more questions about this, I could make a more in-depth video, but this is it for now. So I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and thank you so much for watching.